Fox News, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, what the motive of Fox News is in this attempted character assassination of Tucker Carlson. Clearly, it's Fox News behind this. We established that. If you didn't get a chance to listen to yesterday's episode, I recommend that you do. Not a lot of conservative pundits will analyze Fox News perfectly honestly because they're worried they may lose a spot appearing on a Fox News show, or they may not be hired at Fox News if they criticize any particular action taken by Fox News, even if it's not a larger commentary on or an all-encompassing commentary on the entire company. But we talked a little bit yesterday about what Fox News's motivation might be for trying to destroy Tucker Carlson's reputation after they fired him. And like I said, yesterday's show, go take a listen to that. The onslaught continues. Fox News is clearly behind this because all of this stuff that is being dropped about Tucker Carlson, the fact that Media Matters, quote unquote, obtained videos of Tucker Carlson that were the exclusive property of Fox News. Only Fox News would have had access to that footage on their servers. Only Fox News would have been able to give that footage to Media Matters. And if it had been some rogue staffer, Fox News would have come out immediately and said so. They didn't. So you can pretty much assume that Fox News executives sanctioned the release of that video undercover to Media Matters. The same for these text messages. The New York Times published an article showing a text of Tucker Carlson's. Now, you might be wondering, how on earth do media organizations like the New York Times get access to the private text messages of Tucker Carlson? And this is actually a very good question. It's maybe where we should start this analysis. We should start by acknowledging what a brutal violation of privacy this is. What a brutal violation of Tucker's privacy this is. That sending a text message that you assume is a private message between you and your producer, a personal conversation between you and someone you trust, where you're workshopping ideas, where you are commenting and putting together your thoughts and your argument on certain things that have happened, news of the day and moral issues, and trying to couple that with your personality, because on air, you don't just, unless you're a straight news anchor, you don't just read off the facts of what happened. You comment on it, you share your thoughts on it. For the New York Times to have access, I mean, think about what that would feel like. Pick up your phone right now and hold that in your hands and think about a text message that you sent to your spouse, or a text message that you sent to your best friend, or a text message that you sent to a trusted colleague, maybe about somebody else at work. Those are your private communications. You would be humiliated and devastated if those became public, and you have every right to be. You should not be subject to those communications being made public. Now, the reason that this text message was made public is because in the course of the Dominion lawsuit against Fox News, Tucker Carlson's personal text messages to other Fox employees were subpoenaed in court. Now, you can argue that there's justification for that in the course of an actual lawsuit. Courts have power to subpoena private records. Okay, that's fine. But even in court, this particular text message was redacted. This particular text message was blacked out in the court documents. The judge had not made a decision about whether the jury would be allowed to view this text message or not. And of course, it became a moot point because Fox News settled with Dominion before the trial started. In the 11th hour, they settled for, what was it, $800 million with Dominion, worth over 40 years of the revenue of Dominion. That's how much Fox News paid them. This text message should have been protected almost at all costs, because it's the private communication of an individual who has a right for it to be the private communication. But let's talk about who could have possibly had access to this then. The lawyers at Fox News. That's who had access to this. The lawyers at Fox News. So the release of this text message to the New York Times, this was not something they dug up in a private court proceeding. This was not something they overheard. This was not something that was pseudo-public, that Fox was trying to keep under wraps. The only people who had access to this was Fox News, and law firms that were working for Fox News, which means that Fox News sanctioned the release of this text message to the New York Times, for the same reason that they sanctioned the release of the videos of Tucker Carlson, the behind-the-scenes hot set videos, to Media Matters. They did this on purpose knowing that it was a betrayal of Tucker's privacy because they're trying to destroy his reputation. So that's the background of this. And what the left is doing is doing exactly what Fox, I assume, hoped would happen. They're trying to vilify Tucker for one comment Tucker made in this text message while ignoring the rest of the text message. So let's read this first and then walk our way through it. This is what Tucker Carlson sent to his producer on January 7th of 2021. This was the day after the infamous January 6th. Tucker said, "A couple weeks ago, I was watching video of people fighting on the street in Washington. A group of Trump guys surrounded an Antifa kid and started pounding the living sheet out of him. It was 3 against 1 at least. Jumping a guy like that is dishonorable, obviously. It's not how white men fight. Yet suddenly I found myself rooting for the mob against the man, hoping they'd hit him harder, kill him. I really wanted them to hurt the kid. I could taste it. Then somewhere deep in my brain, an alarm went off. This isn't good for me. I'm becoming something I don't want to be. The Antifa creep is a human being. Much as I despise what he says and does, much as I'm sure I'd hate him personally if I knew him, I shouldn't gloat over his suffering. I should be bothered by it. I should remember that somewhere, somebody probably loves this kid and would be crushed if he was killed. If I don't care about those things, if I reduce people to their politics, how am I better than he is?" That's the text that the New York Times released. That's the text that the left is trying to use to crucify Tucker Carlson. So before we dive into the controversial part, the so-called controversial part of that text, I just want to say there's actually good news for Tucker, that this was released by Fox News to the New York Times, because not only does, in general, the text make him more likable because it shows him to be a very thoughtful and very humble person, it should get him out of any non-compete clause that Fox News has currently in his contract, because this is clearly a violation of almost everything ethical on the part of whoever it was that released the text to the New York Times. So good news for Tucker is he should be able to get out of that non-compete just by these things, just by these videos given to Media Matters and this text message given to the New York Times. So if you can look past the incredible invasion of privacy and the attempted character assassination, if I'm Tucker, I'm like, well, great, that my assumedly impending lawsuit against Fox News just got a lot easier for me. The text message. Also, a little bit more zoomed out view of this as we try to analyze this. Remember Tucker Carlson's relationship with Antifa. Prior to this text message, prior to January 6th, prior to any of this, Antifa showed up at Tucker Carlson's home in Washington, D.C. when he lived in Washington, D.C. Showed up at his home when Tucker was not home, but his wife was. Tucker's wife was at the home when Antifa mobs came to his neighborhood, came up his driveway, and started pounding on the door. His wife hid in a closet.
Hi guys, it's Liz Wheeler. Don't forget to watch my show, The Liz Wheeler Show, every night at 7 p.m. on the First TV. You can download the free First TV app, or you can visit thefirsttv.com/Liz and start watching today.